am the editor of the New Orleans Parents Guide to Public Schools. So I wanted to start off by just talking a little bit about what we do and the kind of information that we provide to families. And so I just pulled some excerpts from the New Orleans Parents Guide to Public Schools, which is the printed publication that we use in that we provide to parents in New Orleans. And I just wanted to quickly kind of show through some of that. This is the cover. This is the new edition that is out as of this week. In fact, we're distributing it right now. We focus on print because we know so many families don't have use technology in the way they're not online and using information in this way. And it's also we've gotten feedback from families that it's very dense and complex information, and it's important to be able to actually pick something up that you can take with you and read at a pace that is not necessarily online. Also, a lot of families that we are supporting and serving aren't at a desktop computer as part of their day. They're not regularly sitting in front of a computer. So big important parts of the Parents Guide is, first of all, showing families where schools are. That's part of the New Orleans landscape, is that schools are moving a lot, and people really do want to understand where our schools located. So we have a pretty thorough map that tries to show people the layout of where schools are located so they can get familiar with that. We also spend a lot of time in the Parents Guide trying to explain the two school districts so that people have an understanding of which district schools are living inside of, because it has huge implications in terms of policy and some of the things that parents can expect from schools. So the schools that are part of the Recovery School District in New Orleans, for example, all inherently must provide transportation to all students, regardless of where they live, which is really a significant and important feature for a family that doesn't have the ability to transport their own children far distances to school. The schools, however, that are part of Orleans Parish School Board provide transportation in a variety of methods and aren't always providing it for all the students. And so that, for example, is one of the things that it's important for families to understand. We also provide some basic information and tips for families to think about how they should go about evaluating schools and helping them ask some critical questions. We definitely found that families who we work with felt really intimidated by the process of questioning schools. And so we have worked with families to create some basic tips on key questions to ask and some things that they should feel really comfortable walking into a school and looking for, and really kind of supporting parents and knowing that they are wise and do know a lot about what their kids need, and that they should feel confident in that, and that they should be able to look at a school and see if it is a quality school with their own eyes, and ask questions in a way that gives them information that they don't necessarily have to be an education expert to be able to evaluate schools effectively. The application process in New Orleans is pretty complicated, so helping people understand and navigate that is a big part of what we do. And then in this year, for the first time, we've added information about demand for schools, because in our landscape where everyone is must apply to schools in order to get in, and most schools are participating in a centralized enrollment process, there is the question of, well, how likely is my student to be able to get into a certain school, right? So we are trying to indicate that, worked with the school district to provide some information to help parents sort of suss out, did a lot of people apply to this school and most of them didn't get in, or did not a lot of people apply to this school and a lot of them got in, and also to try to give parents an understanding of the fact that a school where there's so many things that affect the likelihood of your child being able to get into that school, that it's not just about popularity, it's also about how many seats and a whole bunch of other factors. So trying to demystify that a little bit, and that's new this year and in response to the things that parents asked for. And then just, I think Bill kind of spoke to this in terms of providing a variety of information. We really are focused on trying to give families a holistic view of the school. And saying, like, you really need to look at programming that is offered, as well as outcomes of student performance. Like, that those things together can give you a snapshot of the school, and also focusing on the fact that none of this can ever replace what it's like to go be at a school, to communicate with other parents whose children are experiencing the school and really getting a sense of the full experience that families have. The only other thing I wanted to talk about, and let me just switch modes really quickly, is to talk about what we find that parents want to know. We kind of land in 4 buckets, and that is how well are students being served. We use some indicators like test outcomes, discipline outcomes, how many students return to the school, who could return to the school, these kinds of things to be proxies for that information. And then what is the overall experience that schools are getting at this school? So what kind of programming is available, what kind of extracurricular programs, what kind of sports, what kind of band, all of those kinds of things, because we really find that families want to know what kind of experience their children might have there. We feel like class size is a big part of that. Parents are often asking about class size, and there is tension in that question, because I find that people who are in the position of education decision making will say that class size is not as important as maybe parents think it is. But we really find in conversations with parents that it may not bear on the test outcomes of your student, but it does bear on the experience that children are having. Being in a classroom that is 30 students is really different than being in a classroom with 15 students, and that's an experiential difference that you may want to consider in thinking about things. Also, what kind of student supports are available for students that are behind, for students with special needs, whether or not your student is having those experiences. It's important to know what the school is providing. Another really important question that families have is, who are the people in the building? And this is one that I feel like we are really not providing enough information in the state of Louisiana to families, because parents really want to know about the teachers, about the staff. They want to know who is going to be teaching and caring for my child, and that information has actually not been easy to get or provide to families, but it's really important in all of our conversations with parents. It's one of the first things that people ask about. And then the question of, what is the school community like? How will I fit there? And I think, as Bill kind of talked about, the feedback from other parents is the place where I think that information is most accessible, is really being able to talk to other parents who are have experienced that school and getting a sense of like, what kind of people, like what is the community like, what kind of vibe does this school community have? Again, difficult to capture in a holistic, on a metric kind of way, but these are the kind of dialogues that I think parents really want to have. And I'm looking forward to talking about this in the discussion.